By the Way with I am Beth Cooper.
I'm Stacey. Early
I think is what my car said
was
on
that
the way
like
here.
the high?
I think I don't even know. I don't really pay a lot. The high is 10 today. Okay, we're filming this on Tuesday.
So then the wind chill
January
will be
21st,
negative 1,500.
2025. So yeah, it's supposed to feel like below zero out there.
It does, but the
And I
sun's
believe
at least
it.
shining.
Yeah.
Oh man, I can survive a lot of things as long as I got the sun. I can't deal with no sun.
Yeah.
I have to have the sun.
Yeah. There's a lot of people I think that feel that way. I'm not one of them. I like it when it's cloudy and dark. Like I could live in like
You
the
could
darkness.
You could
like
live in the Merrimack Cave.
I could, yeah, I could. And like I could totally live in the like North Pole area, you know, where it's dark for like 4 months at a time.
I would lose my mind. No. There's no way.
Huge difference just in a month.
Yeah.
So
Yep. I like seeing I like to see my flowers come up, but spring's not my favorite. It's my least favorite month.
Yeah.
Or my least favorite season.
Yeah,
it's
mine
so
too.
wet, but I do like to see. I'm a summer fall girl. If I could have 7 months of July and 5 months of October, I'd be happy. I like it hot because I like to be in the pool, and I can't be in the pool unless it's really hot. It's even heated.
Yeah.
But the worst thing happened. My hot tub broke.
Oh gosh, did you get a new one?
Well, it broke like when all the freeze started happening.
Oh,
so
shoot.
now, so Jim and I are gonna go get. I'm getting one. I can't live without a hot tub.
Yeah.
I'm that weirdo that's like it could be 100 degrees outside and I'd be laying in my pool, and if the sun goes behind a cloud, I will get out, get in my hot tub because I get cold. I've got that weird temperature thing going on.
Well, your
Unless I'm having a
hot
flash.
tub, like if you really like sore muscles and stuff, like it's amazing.
You
Like
gotta have it.
One time at church, I did a funeral dinner and like my back hurt. I'd just been on my feet on concrete a lot more than I'd used, and my back hurt, my legs hurt, and I went and sat in her hot tub for just like 5 or 10 minutes because I can't take it more than that. But I got out of there and I was like, holy cow, I feel like a new woman.
I feel like I believe hot tubs should be covered by insurance.
Yeah.
I really do. They're therapeutic.
And
like I said, the one I have now, that thing's 16 years old. It did good.
Wow. Well, that
so
is
yeah.
good.
So we're gonna go looking. Depends on. Last week was Joanna's birthday, so we were gone in St. Louis. Went to the City Museum and out to eat and that type of thing. And so last week was a bust. And I'm just so weird. I'm weird about my time. This is why I'm weird, because it's like, okay, I don't know what Jim's doing this afternoon. We could literally run to Effingham, but I don't want to do that because I know I've got a meeting tonight. So in my mind, I need that moment to down. I can't be rushy. I don't know. I'm weird.
You need some quiet time every day.
I've got to have a little bit of quiet time every day.
I'm like that too. Sometimes in the evening, it's just like, I don't really even want, like, everybody go do their own thing. Just let me just sit here. Like, I don't need all the noise, and I don't want to constantly have a conversation.
Yeah. Because if I'm in a hurry, I won't shop around. You know me, I'm going to go right up to that place in Effingham and be like, I'll take that one, not even shop around. But if I go on a Saturday, I'm thinking maybe we'll go this Saturday. But I don't know if we have more weather coming in or not.
I don't know. I'm not tired of it yet. I would gladly take another snowstorm just because I like them. I know no one else wants them, but I do.
It's beautiful.
And I missed part of the, like, I live for this every year. Can't wait for the snow. And then I was in Texas and Atlanta and I was here for the first couple of days of the snow, but then when that second snow came and everybody, like, I was gone. I missed it all.
Yeah. And I bet everybody was like, that Beth Cooper, can't wait where it's warm and she loves this. She needs to be here.
I planned that trip like 6 months ago, so I had no idea. I just picked a random week in the winter and thought, chances are I won't miss anything.
Jim was like, how come we didn't leave in January? I said, well, because we traveled. It's like, Jim, we went to 7 different countries last year. We're not. He's like, and then it was awful, and he was just like, I don't mind it, but I don't like the ice. The ice makes me very nervous.
Yeah, I don't like to walk on it. And Jason's right. He's like, you only like it because you don't have to go anywhere. And I'm like, well, that's true. Like, I work from home. I have a great window. I look out. I can admire it. The kids are having a great time. We go back and forth to Charlie Brown Park. I don't get out of the car because I don't want to fall. So
I don't either. I'm terrified. If I fall and break something, I'm out of commission. Yeah, I was telling that to Jack today. I picked him up for school. And he was like, Yaya, you think it's going to get icy? I said, I hope not. I said, I do not like the ice. Yaya does not do good on the ice. I'm like an old lady on there. And he went, why do you not like the ice? And I said, well, Jack, I said, I work with my hands. I said, if I were to fall down and break a wrist or an arm or something I wouldn't be able to work. And he said, that would be bad. I said, yeah, it would be. I said, why do you think that would be bad? He's like, because you buy me stuff.
He's a smart kid.
Jack is a smart kid.
He's a smart kid.
Yeah, because y'all takes him to Holiday World every July, and he was like, we wouldn't be able to go to Holiday World.
Yeah, I've already got my Holiday World tickets this year.
Really?
I bought them on Black Friday. Did you guys know that was a thing?
No.
I didn't until this year, but if you go onto their website on Black Friday, those tickets are cheap. They had a great sale.
Who knew?
Yeah,
I didn't know.
I saved a ton of money. Bought a bunch of tickets.
This year in March, we're going to some Wolf Lodge thing.
Oh, the Great Wolf Lodge. I want to go there.
Yeah, we're going. We're taking the whole family.
Which one are you going to? Because it's a chain.
By Chicago, maybe?
Okay, yeah.
I know. Connor, Natalie,
looked at that.
The kids, we're going.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we're all going. I try to do a couple things, take the whole family and take care of it all.
What month are you going? Can we tag along?
We're going in March.
Take the
We're going in
Coopers?
March. We're going in March.
Okay. I've been wanting to take
because it's
us
that
all.
weird, they're farmers, so they've got that weird, only a certain amount of time, because once farming season, planting, then but yeah, what's it called, Wolf Creek?
I think it's called the Great Wolf Lodge.
Great Wolf Lodge.
And it has like an indoor water park.
Yeah.
And like,
I'm hoping that it's heated, because we did the Polar Express, went to Indiana.
Yeah.
Over there at French Lick, and we froze. The water was freezing.
I know. So we also experienced that, but not at French Lick.
It was miserable.
In Missouri, we went to Tantera, which is a big resort over on Lake of the Ozarks. We've actually been there twice. Both times was not, my kids were a lot younger at the time, not a hit with my kids. The first time we were there, it was so full of people, and it was so loud. All the noises just echo in that room, and the decibel. I mean, like, you wanted to go like this the whole time you were in there, even as an adult. So my kids were like, didn't like it because they didn't like loud things. And then we went back, and the water was so cold.
It was miserable.
And it was like, I thought it was supposed to be heated, and it was like too cold to even enjoy it.
It was awful.
So are all indoor water parks like that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I think this one said that I was looking at that because I'm thinking, man, I'm going to be dropping some coin on this. And it's like, I didn't enjoy the one at French Lick at all. It was freezing. And I literally sat in the hot tub the whole time. But Jack and they didn't even really care for it because it was so cold. But I think this one says that their water temperature is 84.
Okay.
Which to me is still not.
Yeah, that's
not warm
cold
to me. I like it to be
especially
like
if the building is cold. Like
that's what was weird about that one at French Lick, because like getting out, it was warm when you walked in. There was like, ooh, this is nice and toasty.
Okay,
nice and warm in the actual building. But you got the water, and you're like, are you kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You ought to just call over there and ask them what their water temperature is today.
I will.
Just out of curiosity.
Excuse me. I gotta know.
I need to know. Is it warm enough for our family?
Yeah, because I don't know.
Fun.
Oh yeah, we're doing that. We didn't do the Polar Express this year because we did 2 years ago we did Indiana's, and then last year we did St. Louis. St. Louis was amazing.
Yeah,
that Union Station.
Yeah, it's awesome.
St. Louis. I truly believe St. Louis is one of the best cities in this country.
Yeah,
and I say that because there's tons of stuff to do.
There really is. There's a lot to do.
Chicago, no. There's nothing to do in Chicago unless you like the blues and go to bars.
I like the Field Museum myself.
But that's it.
Yeah.
That's all you're getting there. Where like St. Louis, you're going to get the City Museum and the zoo. And
St. Louis has a lot going for it.
And Slick City and this.
I also want to mention that St. Louis was recently taken off the list of the top 10 most dangerous cities to live in the United States. They're no longer on that list.
Good. St. Louis is...
I don't know what number they are. They could be 11, but they're not on top 10.
And they got that Union Station's beautiful. Yeah, because I've gone to Chicago before, and I'm like, Chicago's literally the most boring. Go up in the old Sears Tower. Okay, big deal.
I like it.
You got the arch over here, but there's just nothing else to do.
There's
will wander
Macy's
around.
On State.
You'll Macy's unless you're shop. Like I said,
you're talking family stuff.
I'm talking family. There's nothing to do.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing to do in Chicago. Yeah. St. Louis is where
St. Louis there really is a lot.
There is a lot. The Butterfly House, the Slick City and Magic House, and the City Museum. I could go on, and not to mention the greatest zoo.
Yeah.
They're that one.
And places
the museums,
like Urban Air and things like that. Rock climbing places.
Oh, yeah. There's so much to do. The Arch. I love St. Louis. I think St. Louis is
I'm going there tomorrow, actually.
It's a great city. It's one of my favorites.
Okay.
Do
you have an ad for us?
I have an ad for you. This one's a little bit different.
Okay.
There it is.
Jason.
All British quality stockings and socks for ladies, children, and men. The fully guaranteed product of British factories.
Wow.
I picked this one because, like, okay, look at the socks. I'm not really sure what that. On the bottom, it says Jason. All wool, unshrinkable, made in England.
Nice stockings, Jason.
But the reason why I picked this one was because I'm not sure, honestly, if that's a man or woman holding the sock.
Well,
look how dark the eyeshadow is.
They wanted it to be, where it could be either.
Yeah.
They're for men and women and children.
So
it's also hard to identify the age of that model.
Yeah, I don't know. It might not even be a real person.
No, it's an illustration.
But the bangs are terrible because I'm looking at it real close. The bangs are cut really, really short, then it droops down over the eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
all British, all wool,
I think
unshrinkable.
It's a female, but
yeah, because I just thought that was kind of neat. And then the fact that they've got that picture, and then apparently the factories down below making them. It's a fully guaranteed product.
Oh, well, good.
There you go. But yeah, I thought that was kind of a different Jason socks.
Huh. I like it. I like Jason.
I figured you did like Jason.
I do like Jason.
All right. So that's our ad, and you've got a story for us today?
I do. I have a very interesting story about a man from Mount Erie, Illinois, which is like about 15 miles probably as the crow flies from Flora.
Yeah.
And his name was Rethal Travers.
What is it?
Rethal Travers.
Rethal
Travers was his real name. How long do we have before a commercial?
Let's just take a commercial break and then we'll come back and hit that.
And I'll jump into him. The whole story. We'll be right back.
At your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville, you can count on experts to have the solutions to keep you running on the road or in the field. More than just your car, the Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville carry a large inventory of Napa products for farms, heavy trucks, and just about everything that moves. Experienced associates understand your needs and are ready to help with the perfect part at a great value. That's Napa Know-How at your locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores in Flora and Louisville. Briscoe Surplus Sales on the northeast edge of Flora is your one-stop do-it-all shop. Looking for rugged boots and footwear from great brands like Lacrosse, Rocky, and Carolina? They're there. How about top-notch small engine parts and service? Briscoe Surplus Sales has it. Whether you're wiring your switches or switching your wiring, Briscoe Surplus Sales has the solution and the know-how to help you get the job done right the first time. Briscoe Surplus Sales, your one-stop do-it-all shop.
We like technology at Flora Savings Bank. Here's what you can accomplish in our mobile banking app in less than 30 seconds. See account balances in your transactions, set up an account alert, make a transfer between accounts, get an alert text message about your transfer, pay a bill, turn your debit card off and then back on. It all happens in the palm of your hand with our free My Bank to Go app. Search My Bank to Go in the App Store or Google Play and give mobile banking a try. Flora Savings Bank, member FDIC and equal housing lender.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. I'm super excited about this story.
Okay. And I don't know anything about it.
I know. Stacey doesn't know anything because I was in Texas and Georgia, and this a mutual friend of mine and this person that's going to tell part of the story she had written out her memories and dropped it off in my mailbox by this mutual friend, okay? Mm-hmm. So I didn't have time to read it until just this past week, and I read the whole thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a great story, but I need to do a little bit more research on this guy. Mm-hmm. So I started with where I always start, with findagrave.com, with ancestry.com, and anyway, this is a good one. Okay. So,
okay.
All right. So this story that I'm going to read was given to me by a woman named Berdina Simpson Hawkins. Okay. She doesn't live around here anymore. I believe she lives in Robinson. But she had written out this memory of this man named Rethal. She starts off calling him Rethal Travers. Okay. But in her story, she also calls him Reese because everybody in Mount Erie called him Reese. That was his nickname, Reese Travers. Well, come to find out, his last name's not Travis. It's Travers. Oh. But I think probably he himself even just maybe said Travis or said it fast, Travers. And everyone just said Travis. but it took me a long time to find him on Find a Grave or on Ancestry because there was nobody named Reese Travis. There was nobody named Rethal Travis. And then I noticed that there was a cemetery at Mount Erie called Travers Cemetery. So I thought maybe he was a Travers instead of a Travis. And lo and behold, it took a few different spellings of his name, but I did find the man. So his real name was Rethal Travers, and he was born a twin, and his twin's name was Retha Olive. So there was a boy and a girl twin. Rethal Oliver is his name.
Oh, my Lanta.
And her name was Retha Olive. And they were born in 1910. They were twins in 1910. Okay. So before I go into some of the other stuff I've discovered, and I've talked to different people about him now, that I'm going to kind of throw that in. But first I want to share her story and her memories of this man, because this is a character. What was the guy's name in Mayberry in Andy Griffith's show that was like the one in the white that was always in jail?
Oh, gosh.
Otis?
Yeah.
Okay, Rethal Travers kind of reminds me of Otis.
Yeah.
In his way that he acts, but maybe not the way that he looks.
There's a funny thing. There's like this little cartoon goes around and says, the only person in Mayberry, nobody in Mayberry was married except for Otis, and he was the town drunk.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
Everybody else was happy they weren't married.
Okay, so let's dive into this story. So, she says, Rethal Travis, a name you never hear these days. And she said, maybe the name died with the man. I don't know. But I do know that he was one of several larger-than-life characters that traveled through my childhood and left a lasting impression. She said he was probably in his early 50s, but the years had not been kind to him. He was as tall as my dad. 6'2" or 6'3", and very, 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 very thin. Now, I did some research, and Rethal was drafted into World War II when he was 30 years old, and on his draft card it says he is 6 foot tall. So she was close. He was definitely 6 foot tall. She said his complexion was dark, and his hair and his eyes were almost black.
Oh, wow.
Swarthy is the word in her mind. Swarthy. You know, swarthy is like somebody that's like dark and mysterious. And maybe not entirely trustworthy.
Swarthy.
Yeah, swarthy. Word. She said that, but she's also, this was about the same time that her grandma gave her a copy of Treasure Island. So she said that could be where swarthy came from, was Treasure Island. But that's how she described him in her mind. His clothes hung on his body, ragged and dirty. He had a shambling gait, like he'd been put together loosely. I don't think I ever saw him without a cigarette. He lived in an old 2-storied house between the pool hall and May's garage in Mount Erie. And Mount Erie could kind of be like a little bit like Mayberry. I mean, there's some parallels here, little town. The house had no electricity or water, and he used kerosene lamps and a little kerosene heater when he had money to buy the fuel. She said, I never wasted any time walking past that house. It was dark and forbidding, and the roof was falling in. There was always at least 2 or 3 dogs tied up behind the house. Now, scrawny, flea-bitten mutts, you're probably thinking, and you would be wrong.
Oh.
These were beautiful animals, sleek, well-fed blue tick hounds. And then I talked to someone else, and they said he also raised beagles. But because that's how Reese Travis survived. He raised and trained the best hunting dogs for miles around.
Oh, wow.
So she says, and how did I, a 10 or 11-year-old kid, know so much about this man? Well, my dad told me most of what I knew, but I was also very nosy and accomplished eavesdropper, she said. I know that he came from good people, although I never saw any of them ever come to see him. He was always alone, no wife, no children, no vehicle, no job, except for his dogs. But by far, his biggest, heaviest cross to bear was his raging alcoholism.
Oh, no.
So when you said Otis was the town drunk,
Yeah.
Reese here was the town drunk in Mount Erie. She said, I don't think he was ever completely sober. He lived in varying degrees of intoxication, always, day and night. When he sold a dog, he would hire somebody to take him to Olney to get alcohol. He would stock up, bring it home, and sink into oblivion until it was all gone. This happened fairly often because his reputation as a breeder and trainer of the hounds was flawless. However, there are always downtimes, times when the cash dried up. And when that happened, he would take his last few dollars to our local grocery store and buy bottles of vanilla extract or Lucky Tiger hair tonic or whatever he could find to feed his disease. Because those have small amounts of alcohol in them.
Oh.
Hair tonic.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I've heard of people doing that. And
I've always heard about it, but I never heard it, but I wouldn't know anybody would really do it.
If you're desperate, I guess.
I guess if you're desperate.
During those times, his friends at the pool hall took turns asking their wives to fix a little extra for supper. Then one friend or another would leave food on his doorstep. Reese never mentioned the food, and neither did his friends. It was just what you did. These downtimes were also when he became unpredictable, even violent. When our folks told us to stay out of his way, it was a common sight to see him shaking his fists at the sky, ranting and raging on and on like someone out of the Old Testament until he finally fell down and passed out. It was during one of these bad times, one evening as I was walking home from school, that I saw some kids gathered in the road in front of the restaurant. And as I got closer, I saw what they were looking at. Reese had fallen down on the concrete porch. He was still conscious, cursing and mumbling incoherently. This part's kind of sad. Mm-hmm. Two boys were on the restaurant porch with him, and one boy had a long stick, and he would poke at the fallen man and then dance away laughing each time Reese lurched after him. Reese's face was covered with blood from his fall, and still the boy teased and taunted him until I sandbagged him upside the head with my loaded book satchel. She said, no, we never heard of a backpack back then. It was a satchel.
It was a satchel.
But she
knocked the kid
in the head. The kid was caught completely by surprise and fell down, alarmingly close to the raving man. He scrabbled backward, trying to get away from the no longer funny situation, and in his haste, he fell off the porch into the gravel. I was saved from going another round with him when his nose began to bleed. He started bawling and took off for home, and I don't know what happened next. I took off too, knowing I was in deep trouble. Someone came out of the restaurant and shooed the kids away and took Reese home. As for my fate, I was right. The boy's mother, who was also my piano teacher, was already on the phone to my mother. Lucky for me, my dad came home just as I was trying to explain things to my mom. He had apparently been in the restaurant and watched the whole ugly incident. I left it to him to call my mother. I had to check my book satchel for damage. So a couple of things resulted from this event. My career as a pianist came to nothing. And that boy and I never developed a close friendship. Time passed and Reese's fortunes did not improve. One night my family was having supper when there was a loud knock on the door, and my dad went to see who was there. We heard low voices. Then Dad hurried back into the kitchen, grabbed his coat, and said, "Stay inside and lock the doors, Evelyn. I'll be back as soon as I can." And he was gone. My mom and my baby sister and I sat at the table and stared at each other. My little sister looked like she might cry, so Mom got us back to the business of finishing our supper. She put my dad's food in the oven, and I helped clean up the kitchen. Then I did my homework, and still Dad wasn't back. So Mom sent us to bed. And I made sure Jervis was fast asleep before I crept over to the stairs and got in my favorite position for eavesdropping. Now, Jervis was her sister, okay? At last, I heard the door open downstairs, and I heard my mom's angry voice and my dad trying to calm her. At last, he just told her what had happened. Reese Travis had brought a shotgun to the pool hall, waving it around and threatening to shoot everyone. The man who came to our house had slipped out the back door and ran to get my dad. And with his calm and sensible manner, Dad had talked Reese into giving him the gun. I heard Mom crying and sounding really mad at the same time. Dad said that tomorrow he and a couple other guys were going to go through Reese's old house to make sure there weren't any more guns. And my mom said, I don't know if I can say this word online. Darn it, Sam. He's going to kill someone. Just call the sheriff to come and get him. I heard my dad's voice say sadly, I might just have to do that this time. But the next day, the men didn't find any more guns. The weather turned colder, and Reese didn't come out of his house much. One evening over supper, Dad said he saw a local farmer unloading a couple bales of straw at Reese's place. Bedding for the dogs, I guess, he said. The weather got even worse, and Reese didn't show up at the pool hall or at the restaurant for coffee. So my dad went to check on him. He pounded and pounded on the door, and Reese finally came to the door, eyes red-rimmed, the ever-present cigarette in the corner of his mouth. And Dad told us later he was pretty sure the man had every piece of clothing he had owned piled on himself. But he assured my dad that he was plenty warm. He said he'd spread the straw on the floor and brought the dogs inside. Isn't this sad?
It is sad. Let's take a commercial break, and then so he brought his doggies inside.
Yes, because it was so cold.
Aw.
It's a terrible, sad story. Okay, we'll be right back.
If you're looking for a loan for your brand new home, call Clay County State Bank. If you want to transfer money so your future will look sunny, call Clay County State Bank.
We got checking and savings and bill pay too.
An online bank, you just ask our crew. For all your banking needs, we think you will agree.
Clay County State Bank is the place you need to be.
Clay County State Bank.
At Clay City Banking Company, we're all on the same team, regardless of zip code. At home, work, school, or across the country, you can be part of our team with our cutting-edge mobile banking products. From your hand, you can check balances, transfer money, make deposits, and pay bills. Looking for a loan? We've got you covered with our mortgage, agriculture, commercial, and consumer loans. Join our team today. Clay City, Flora, Louisville, and Fairfield Banking Companies. We're the hometown banks, member FDIC, and equal housing lender.
Tomorrow. Some fear the uncertainty it brings. Some trust the promise it holds. At Grinnell Mutual, we are always looking forward to tomorrow, growing and innovating. So even if the plans you have for the future aren't the same as the plans that the future holds for you, you can be ready. Because we'll be ready, like we have been for over 100 years. Trust in that. Trust in tomorrow. Talk to your mutual agent today.
Your local agent is on the square. Louisville, Clay County Farmers Mutual Insurance.
Welcome back to By the Way with Beth and Stacey. Today I'm talking about a man named Rethal Travers. Some called him, others knew his real name was Rethal Travers, from Mount Erie, Illinois, which is in Wayne County. So we, this story was dropped off to me, and it's a sad story. It's, I feel my heart goes out to this man. He was a raging alcoholic.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of people that really cared for the man too. So anyway, we were just talking about him, and he raised these dogs. The winter's super cold, so he's bringing the dogs in. He's bought some straw, laid that down inside of his house. His house didn't have any running water or electricity.
Oh my.
He had no heat other than a little bit of kerosene, which when he didn't have any money, he didn't have any kerosene.
That's really so sad.
I know. And you just think, like, was there nobody around that could give him a job?
Yeah, it makes you
or
wonder.
Or he was just too much of an alcoholic to do anything?
Survive.
Or was it, like no one wanted to hire him? But
There's got to be a little bit more. I don't know.
I mean,
what did he? I wonder did he talk about what his sister did? What
yeah.
the twin
So,
sister did.
well, the twin sister died as an infant.
Okay.
Okay. So she didn't. I do have a picture. Let's look at the picture.
I want to see what this guy looks like
before I get back into the story. Okay. this is So this is Rethal and Retha. Retha was middle name Olive, and Rethal's middle name was Oliver. She died as a baby. And then he had another sister that did grow up to be an adult, and her name was Bertha. I don't know that they had a relationship. I mean, no one ever remembers seeing anyone come to visit him or family, but he's, from a good family. Everyone thought he was from a good family.
Was he ever married?
No.
He never married, no children, just kind of a loner.
Uh-huh. Yep. His mom's name was Etta, and his dad's name was Michael. And, yeah. So let me jump back into where I was. So he had basically filled his house with straw, brought the dogs in, trying to keep warm. So then she goes on with her story here. A couple of days later, on my way to school, I met Reese going up the sidewalk to the grocery store. He had his head down, his clothes were flapping in the bitter wind, and he looked like a scarecrow. There was even straw stuck here and there in his clothes. I knew that soon there would be another bad time coming, but I was wrong. That night it snowed, and Jervis and I were snug and warm in our clean, soft beds. And she said, I don't know what woke me up, but I sat up and the room was unnaturally bright. I crawled out of bed and went to the window, and the night was lit up like daytime with flames reaching for the sky. I started screaming for my mom and dad. I grabbed my sleepy baby sister by the hand and we ran down the stairs. Our parents were up, and my dad was frantically trying to get his clothes on, and the phone started ringing. Dad answered, and I heard his voice break. No, no, he cried. I've got to go, he told us. Reese's house is on fire. So, he's got it filled up with straw. He smokes all the time.
He smokes and kerosene.
And it was an old wooden 2-story house. The roof was falling in. And it's in Mount Erie that doesn't have a fire department. And the closest fire truck was probably about 20 minutes away.
Oh, my.
So they've already called the fire department. I'll be back as soon as I can, he said. My mom tried to comfort my sister and me, and she told us that the fire department was probably almost here. Things will be okay. But I knew the truth. The fire trucks were coming from a town 20 minutes away, and it was still snowing. The old house went up like a tinderbox. It was rubble before the fire trucks even got to Mount Erie. They found Reese's body beside his dogs the next day. Probably a lit cigarette caused it, they said. So she ends her letter with, so ended the days of Rethal Travers. And what is the point of recounting this sad memory, you might wonder? I'm not sure myself. I think he was my first brush with life's brutal side. A tragic end to a wasted life. Why? What put him on that path? I remember seeing him and my dad deep in conversation, even laughing together. He was polite and well-spoken some of the time, and he had a nice smile. And there's no one left to ask about the mysteries of Reese Travis. I guess I just like the idea that wherever he wound up, he'd appreciate knowing that he's still remembered. My little sister Jervis asked me to write about Reese, and when I told her I would try, we gave each other such a grin, and almost at the same time we said, didn't he look just like Clark Gable? And he did. 50 plus years later in our memories.
Aww.
So, I see why she wants to remember him. I mean, it was a sad life, but it shouldn't be forgotten.
Right.
Definitely an interesting character, and why was he on the path he was on? Well, he served in World War II. I found that out in my research. So,
was he on Find a Grave?
Yes, it took me a while to find that grave, but yes, I did. There's, I'll talk about that here in a second, but, World War II, back then people didn't talk about PTSD, you don't know what he saw in the war, what flipped a switch that caused him to
be a loner,
to be an alcoholic,
say something
trying
serious.
to forget something, trying to get through something, and this was he passed away on January the 19th of 1961. That's not that far back, and many of you may remember him. But even though it wasn't that far back, there weren't the mental health services, the counseling services, even the medications to help you deal with things, trauma like that. my heart goes out to him because I feel like there was something there that he needed. He needed help. I mean, they didn't have rehabs back then. You were just the drunk. There was no.
Oh yeah, you're just the town drunk.
Yeah, and he was, and there were no options for him. You know.
You talk about this story, which you had the alley-oop from Effingham.
Yes.
Kind of like the same thing. Like literally came back from Vietnam and just
kind of crazy.
Yeah. People don't, we can sit here and talk about
I'm not
war.
judging him. I'm not because he had a serious problem.
Yeah.
And he didn't have any way to help himself to get through it. I mean,
no.
And it sounds like his neighbors did care for him. So, but there's just only so much you can do for a person.
Yeah, you still have to pull yourself up by the bootstraps,
right?
But isn't that kind of like? I mean, a lot of our homeless people we have are vets. Mm-hmm. But sometimes you can't help people. I mean, at least you gotta help. You gotta be able to help yourself.
Yeah. So that letter came from someone named Berdina Simpson Hawkins.
She's a very good writer.
Yes. Yep. And then I also spoke to Dan Fout. And Dan was super nice, helpful. He grew up there as well. And in fact, when I told him about who I had talked to or who I had gotten the letter from, he remembered Berdina as kids, and so he shared just a few things about his memories of Rethal Travers, and he said that sometimes when Rethal was doing good, he might walk by him and he would give him a whole great big handful of change, more change than Dan had. Mm-hmm. And he was real giving, even though this man didn't have anything and should have probably saved his change for himself for whenever he needed something. But apparently when he had the money, he shared it. Wow. And when he didn't, he just didn't have anything. So he'd just walk by children and hand out coins. What's that story? There's another story about that. Who did that? Who else did that? It was it was Charlie Berger. He did that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Not that.
So he had a good heart.
Yeah, he had a good heart. And that is the main thing that Dan said, is that he was a good guy and he had a heart of gold. And that should be mentioned, that he really did have a heart of gold. He definitely fell on hard times. He was the town drunk, had a real serious problem with alcoholism, but he was a great guy. And one of his other memories of him was of him passed out in the park there at Mount Erie, laying on, I think he said a swing or a bench, I don't remember. And the sheriff at the time, or the deputy, I think he said sheriff though, his name was, get this, Pluto Marvel. That I'm like, I wrote that name down because I want to look into him. We've done a story on Clay County sheriffs.
Yeah,
maybe look into the name Pluto Marvel. He sounds like he did great things. Pluto Marvel was the sheriff, but anyway, he was having
down in your notes. So
it's there. So he was having a really hard time getting him out of the park and back home.
Yeah,
and he remembers walking by and seeing that. That's
funny.
And then I also talked to Bev Bass, who's lived in Mount Erie for years, and she had, she didn't remember a lot about him, but she had a few things to add, and she didn't think that the fire of his house was in Mount Erie. She thought it was in another area further out in the country.
Really?
Closer to Fairfield. So I have Googled, I have searched the internet, scoured the internet for stories about this fire, an obituary. I've called the Wayne County Press. They were not able to find the obituary or any news about it at all. I was really, really, really wanting to find a picture of this Clark Gable man.
Right.
And she couldn't find one in the Wayne County Press, and I thank her for trying to help me.
I bet all the doggies died too, didn't they?
Yeah, the dogs died too. So my last resort was to go to ChatGPT, which is the AI, but they're really, the way that ChatGPT works, for those that don't know, is it just in an instant can scour the whole internet. So anything that it's reporting back to you, it's gleaned from some article somewhere.
What did you call it?
ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
That's like the main AI app that most people use, and even businesses use to, like, can you rewrite this email and make it sound more professional, things like that. But if you ask ChatGPT a question like if you were working on a report for school, like, you could ask it questions and it would just like glean information from whatever is already out there on the internet. So it's not fake information. It's just doing the search for you faster and putting it into your own words so you don't have to click through and read a whole bunch of different articles.
Yeah.
Okay, so I asked it about Rethal Travers and the fire, and it came back with a small story that it said ran in the Wayne County Press, even though we weren't able to find it in actual print. But it said that the fire was in the country near Fairfield, which could be, that's just putting it into other terms. So was it Mount Erie? Because some people might consider that near Fairfield because it's in the same county, or was it in another part of the county? I don't know. It's still but both Dan and Berdina both said the fire was right there in Mount Erie next to May's garage. So I don't know. I don't know what's the right story there, but there's different versions. So if you know more about this man, or you have a picture of this man, because I really, really want to see it.
See him.
Let me know. You can reach out to us, send us an email at Beth and Stacey at gmail.com and fill us in on what you remember about Rethal Travers or Reese Travis.
The name thing is very odd.
Yes, but maybe it was just easy for everyone to just say Travis, and it just
Travers.
Some names you don't say right, and the people that have that name don't even really say it right because they don't really care if you say it right or whatever. So maybe it just was easy to be like Reese Travis. And
I have heard of some Travers.
Yeah.
I mean, the name's not, it's not.
So, right. And there is an entire cemetery at Mount Erie called Travers Cemetery, which is where you would think that he was buried. He is not. He is buried at McKendree Cemetery, which is also right there near Mount Erie. And he has a very small tombstone, and it says his name, Rethal Travers. And then it says something erected by friends or paid for by, but basically, he didn't have any money.
Right. I was
his friends there in town are the ones that paid for him to have a stone and be buried.
That's nice.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
so people must have really liked him. And
I think he was well liked, even though he had this drinking problem. I think that
we need to take a commercial break, and we will come right back. We'll finish up.
Do you bowl like this? That's great. Do you bowl like this? That's great too. That's because whether you're a pro or you just want to have a lot of fun, at Peggle's Silver Dollar Lanes, we have a lane for you. We have galaxy bowling, gaming for kids and adults, Joe's Pizza, a full bar, darts, pool, and fresh and clean bowling shoes. Boy, does that smell nice. So come on down to Peggle Silver Dollar Lanes in Effingham, where we have a lane for you.
My name is Robin Stanford. I own Stanford Marketing. It's a promotional products business along with an embroidery business. And we do custom hats, t-shirts, anything, you name it, we can make it. People like that we do stuff in-house and we can actually make things here and that we're not contracting the work out to other places. We never say no. We always try to find a way to do it. If anybody can do it, we can do it. We are hardworking women, that is for sure. Come to Stanford Marketing in Flora for all your custom and promotional needs.
Give me order lumber. Doors, paint, windows, electrical, plumbing, and much more. Oh yeah, give me all your guns too.
John Lucas.
What?
You better be dreaming about all the stuff we sell here at Zink Building Center.
Oh, I would. Zink Building Center in Louisville on Route 45. It's a cool place.
Oh, we're back.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my gosh.
Ty, you didn't tell us we
Where
were
was our warning at, Ty? We're talking about what we're going to talk about next. So that pretty much wraps up the story on Rethal Travers. It was a sad life, but it was important to remember him and, and kind of learn from it. Like sometimes life is tough.
Life is tough.
And there's always has been and always will be people that are having a rough walk. So anyway, I would love to see a picture of this tall, dark, handsome man. So if anyone has one out there, send it in. I could not find one anywhere on the internet or in the Wayne County Press. So, back in the 60s, it wasn't common to put a picture with an obituary.
No. Now they're right on the tombstones.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Neat.
Yeah, they are. That is cool. Okay.
Do you want me to read this?
Yeah, go for that.
Okay, so I always have papers hometown journals in there in case a show finishes up sooner. And this, of course, the love of my life is Sailor Springs. So,
Yes.
and Linda Davidson wrote lots of Back Then in Sailor Springs. She wrote this. This was Thursday, January 30th, 2003. So we're in that winter time.
Yeah.
Back Then in Sailor Springs by Linda Davidson. Back then in Sailor Springs, little picket fences with wooden gates and iron fences with ornate iron gates were very popular. So when I'm reading this, close your eyes.
I can picture
and
it.
Get it pictured. Even on the spring grounds, as they were also very fashionable in the resort days. There was a main gate on the east side of the spring grounds. It was about 4x4, made of heavy iron. It had a weaving design made of wrought iron. At the top was a little iron circle, beginning 9 inches in the center, graduating down to 5 inches, 4 inches, 3 inches, and 2 inches of circles on top, twisting round and round in little curls. At each side were very fancy iron curls. The heavy post, fancy irons and heavy post. It was heavy and bored on a post, and a nail fastened it. This was the main gate to the spring grounds. In later years, the owner of the spring grounds kept his Palomino horse tied there, ready for mounting in the morning, so he could ride to the spring grounds to feed his stock. Today, the gate stands majestically along next a lonely tree. A gate to open back then to take you into a magical wonderland, the likes of which you'd never forget. Today, it stands alone, center stage. The front drops to a setting sunset on Sailor Springs' glorious past. If only we could walk inside and partake of the beauty of the past. If the big east gate of the spring grounds could only talk. Back then, Sailor Springs was a glamorous place to be. A booming little village nestled in the beautiful farming country of southeast central Illinois. The rich came here for many miles around by train to take holiday at the famous resort. This was where the action was, the crowds, the hustle and bustle of everyday life. Businesses booming, a school full of children, jobs were created for many people. When I think of what was here, I imagine horse, buggies, doctors, glamorous rich people, and the grand Glendale Hotel. The magic springs, people of the village hurrying to and fro, and a growing town. Only the finest could happen to a small Illinois town, and it would be famous forever. Today, as I stand on these famous spring grounds, there is a big old tree standing stately in the middle of the grounds. Underneath the tree, a small stream of stagnant water flowing with green moss on top. To the south of the spring grounds, a couple trees are still standing, waiting to tell their grand story of days gone by, when as seedling, children touched them while playing, but let them continue to grow. To the south, a beautiful hill. The grounds are sloping. Looking back to the northeast, there is a lovely landscape. It begins with a flat land and peaking to hill on the north, sloping down to the valley of the spring grounds. I love the way Linda Davis.
Right.
I love the way she writes. And
yes,
like I said, Clay County's got a great history. None better than Sailor Springs.
Oh man, it's the best.
And talk about burning down.
Oh right.
You know, hotels. There were 2 of them there. Beautifulness, fire.
Yeah.
But Sailor Springs. The thing about Sailor Springs is they were all set.
Yeah.
Somebody burned Sailor. The story of the mafia. And you had the New York mafia and you had the Chicago mafia. They both wanted it. And if neither one could have it, nobody was going to have it.
Yeah.
The history of Sailor Springs is I love just driving through Sailor Springs.
I know. Yeah. We went through a couple weeks ago just to kind of, Jason and Silas and just kind of, I think we were on Christmas break and just like I was showing them the springs.
We have a little bit more time. Do you have something?
I do have something. So this is a McCall's magazine that I have from 1918 and it is full of stories and interesting articles. I can just sit at home and like read just these stories. Some are fiction, some aren't. But this one is about menu planning for the woman, like the mother, how to plan your menus in 1918, and she starts out saying, it used to be simply, what shall I give my family for dinner today? But now it is, how can I fulfill my obligations to this home card on my desk and pay for adequate food for this family of mine? And it does seem as if the winter months were harder in the second line of defense as well as in the other. So she's referring to World War I here. And she goes on to talk about, she was a little worried. She must confess, in the beginning of the mustering in of the United States Reserves, I was afraid that after all, we women at home wouldn't have a real working part in shortening the great struggle. And so it has been a genuine satisfaction to find that serving in the second line of defense is much harder than I thought it would be. If the men in the first line can stand the routine of camps and trenches, I can respond to each morning's reveille to menu making without my old complaint of deadly drudgery. For here is my daily chance to fall in line behind the general of the food army and to help bring up reinforcements of real material worth. In selecting food, we must all be governed by the amount of money at our command, but we must remember that it is not the expensive thing which is the wholesome thing necessarily. Expensive meats have no more, if as much food value as the cheaper cuts. So she goes on to talk about kind of like what food to buy, but this is the really interesting part, is she gives examples of menus. Okay. So this is some of her menus of what you would fix as a housewife reading McCall's magazine. Like this is some examples of what you could fix for the day. Okay. And so we're going to start with Sunday, the first day of the week. Sunday breakfast. Hominy. Jason hates hominy.
Oh, my mother used to make hominy all the time.
Steamed dates, scrambled eggs, cornmeal muffins, and coffee. That's your breakfast.
That's your breakfast.
Then your dinner, which is lunch, which I want to be sure to tell you that dinner means lunch. My husband would argue that dinner means supper.
Dinner is not supper.
Supper is lunch.
Supper. Dinner is lunch.
Okay, so for dinner, I think it depends on which county you're from. And in Wayne County, dinner is supper, and I'm from Clay County, and I'm telling you it's not. Okay, dinner is clear soup, baked sweet potatoes, roast duck, squash, apple and chestnut stuffing, cranberry jelly, and prune souffle.
No.
And coffee. That's Sunday dinner. That's
nice.
Lunch, okay? And then supper is grilled sardines on toast.
Oh, no.
Cornmeal rolls, peanut cookies, and tea. Okay, so it's Sunday, so they had a big lunch, a big dinner, and then for supper, they had a lighter meal, okay? Wow. Monday breakfast, oranges, oatmeal, whole milk, cornmeal waffles, syrup, and coffee. For their luncheon, they had baked squash with cheese, rye bread, cocoa, and applesauce.
Okay.
Does any of this sound like anything you would eat? I mean, waffles and syrup.
Eggs.
I might eat that. The scrambled eggs, sure. I like oatmeal, but I like brown sugar on it. And she didn't mention any of that.
Yeah.
Okay, this supper.
Oh, boy.
Here we go. Duck soup, cornmeal sticks, mashed potatoes. Yeah, I like mashed potatoes.
I like mashed potatoes.
Braised flank of beef. That's probably actually pretty good. Boiled beets, brown gravy, shredded cabbage with ketchup, French dressing, and coffee. Now, they're eating a lot. I mean, like, all of these meals have several items.
There's a bunch in there.
Like, their breakfast isn't just waffles. It's oatmeal, waffles, coffee, syrup,
everything.
all of these things. And their lunch is squash, bread, cocoa, applesauce. So they're eating, but it's like all real food. No wonder they were so skinny. Like, there is not one. Yeah. Of course, it's 1918, so nothing's processed. Nothing's high in sugar. Yeah. Honestly, some of this stuff sounds really gross, but if I could eat like that, I would probably feel a whole lot better. Okay. We're moving on to Tuesday.
Well, make it breakfast because you've only got a couple minutes.
Okay. We'll just do another day or two. For Tuesday, they have dried apricots stewed, cornmeal mush with brown sugar. Oh, they do have brown sugar. Poached eggs, rye bread with toast and coffee. And for lunch, they had black bean soup, buckwheat drop biscuits with cream cheese and tea. And for supper, it was beef in casserole, brown sauce, don't know what that is, baked potatoes, string beans, baked custard with raspberry jam, and coffee.
Now, that wasn't horrible.
No, that one wasn't horrible. One day for supper, they had sauteed parsnips. You ever had a parsnips?
I don't even know what that is.
But they also had macaroni and cheese.
Yum.
So I would be a little heavy on the macaroni and cheese, a little light on the parsnips. I'd be like, I think I'll have another helping of mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Yep. Vegetable soup, ribs. They had some good food.
They did have some good food.
Yeah.
That's a fun magazine.
It is super fun.
Keep that in, in there in case we run. Well,
Yep.
let's end on our little Jack Handy.
Okay. Wise words.
The wise man can pick up a grain of sand and envision a whole universe. But the stupid man will just lay down on some seaweed and roll around until he's completely draped in it. Then he'll stand up and go, "Hey, I'm a vine man."
Oh my gosh.
Hey,
Jack Handy, I
I'm
think he's on drugs when he writes these. This craziness.
He has
Craziness.
to be.
Oh my gosh.
He's funny though.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. As always, you can catch us on Wabash Catch TV, channel 100, Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. and again at 3 p.m. And we're also on YouTube. You can find all of our past episodes on our YouTube channel. And it is By the Way with Beth and Stacey. Like and follow us on Facebook or email us at bytheway with@gmail.com.
That's it.
That is it for today. So thanks a lot. We'll see you next time.
God bless you and have a great day.